Welcome to RawSportsCast. My name is Scott Harrigan. Today we have a friend of mine, Kenny Goodland. Kenny, welcome to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Good, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem. For those of you who may not know, Kenny is played rugby for many, many years. Started off in Newfoundland. We'll get into all that. But is the head coach of CW. Is that correct?
Castaway Wanderers, head coach and director of rugby. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. And so let's maybe we can start. If you can kind of just take us back to what when you first started playing rugby, where you played, where you honed your craft, and just maybe how'd you get into it?
Yeah, like probably a lot of kids, my brother played. He's a couple years older, so of course you want to chase your older brother around. So started because of him back in Newfoundland, St. John's, high school stuff, regular stuff there, right into the provincial team, U17, all that sort of stuff, and met Dr. Pat Parfrey, who's pretty influential in my career. He's still around.
Who is he?
He is currently, he helps out with the U20 team. He liaison.
In Newfoundland?
He's out of Newfoundland, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he coached for a number of years the national squad. He coached the Rock for forever. And he still works with Rugby Canada in a lot of different capacities. One of the main ones, I think, is currently liaison with World Rugby. Oh, wow. And so he's quite influential and he's been around.
Yeah. Now, you won a few championships in Newfoundland, did you not?
Yeah, we did. Senior men's team 4 in the 2000s. The McTeer Cup, right? We had a few shots at the old Super League stuff, and then it turned into the McTeer Cup, the CRC, which it has died off the last couple of years for various reasons. But 2005, 06, 08, and 2010 were years we won. So I retired after the 2010 one, which was always nice to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go out on top, yeah.
So when did you get to the island?
I came here in 2000. So I was part of the original Pride, which was originally called CCSD, Commonwealth Centre for Sport Development, born out of the Commonwealth Games legacy in '94.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was an under 23 team, and so it was basically a national under 23 team that was a residential program started here in Victoria. 1996 to 98 were the first. 96 was the first year. I stayed till 98 for 2 years. Went back for a couple of years, started doing a few courses, realized that I wanted to play more rugby. Answered a call from Brent Johnston at Castaway Wanderers.
Yeah.
He got me out here in the late summer of 2000. And never looked back. I was very lucky for a long time because what I ended up doing was playing the league here. The great thing about the league here, of course, is that it's a sort of a European league. It goes from September to May.
Yeah, the weather.
So I would play the club league here every year and spend my summers flying around playing for the Rock until 2010. So I did that for 10 years. Wow. Basically playing rugby 10, 11 months a year. And it was fabulous. It was really awesome. I was really lucky to be able to do that. And you get a ton of games under your belt. That's why I moved out here. I wasn't really gonna reach a lot of my goals playing 3 or 4 or 5 months a year in back east, right? So made that call in 2000 and answered that call, I should say, in 2000 and really never looked back. Met my wife out here, so there's no going back now. So.
Good for you. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm just gonna go on a limb here. Probably the pinnacle of your career was making the cover of the ISN magazine, I'd have to say.
Well, that is up there.
I think I got an email from your mom. I've clearly never met your mom. And she just a random, and it was, I need a copy. I heard my boys.
I found a copy of that recently.
Did you really?
A few years ago.
I don't even have one.
We were moving houses, and I was rifling through some stuff, and I found a copy, and my wife had a really kind of good eye roll at that.
Yeah. How did this happen?
I heard all this before, right?
Yeah.
It was fun. That was really fun.
That was cool. I remember watching you guys back in the day, and one of the games I remember was playing your old rivals, James Bay, and I don't know how much time was left on the clock, but John Graff kicked a drop kick with literally seconds to go with his wrong foot. I mean, I don't know if he had a wrong foot, but
that was to avoid relegation. That kick.
Oh, no way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Do you remember obviously remember the game?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was that not one of the greatest play? Like, to me, not knowing rugby as well, I played a bit and stuff like that, but never at the level of, on a weekly basis. But I remember that play, just being a sports guy, going, holy shit, I think that's...
It was phenomenal. That was when they had that relegation system, right? So you finish bottom two, maybe it was bottom one or two, I can't remember what it was, but you finish, well, it doesn't matter, but finish bottom of the table, you're down, right?
Yeah.
And that kick literally was to avoid relegation.
Really?
We had we had to ring off, I think it was 3 of the last 4 games of the season to just to get to that point, really to put ourselves in a spot to do that.
Wow.
And we pulled it off. And John, it's interesting. We were talking before we went on air about, icons and stuff in Canadian rugby. And John was one for me who I talked about the Reeses and the Sharons and those guys. And John was phenomenal. He came to our club quite late in his career, obviously, because he's a few years older than I am. But to play with him and to get to know him a lot better like that.
Great guy.
He's a beauty.
Great guy.
And the sort of the approach he brought at that time to the squad was phenomenal. And
because he's not the biggest guy.
No, and one thing I don't think people know, he's probably the only one. He has to be the only one. I can't think of another one who's represented Canada at every single back position.
Oh wow! So I didn't know that. Yeah.
He's played. I don't know how many caps he's got. Probably in the 50s, right? He's got a pile of caps, but I think he's the only one that has gotten. He's played at scrum half, fly half. 2 center positions, wing, fullback. I think he
can do it all. He's one of those guys that he could just play and he loves the game clearly. Yeah. And he's played for quite a few teams as well, right?
Yeah, he was originally out of Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Played for the Ravens there. And,
the old boys.
I think he was in Wales for a while.
Yeah.
Sorry, not the Ravens. Yeah, the old boy Ravens.
Yeah, the old boy. Yeah.
Ravens now, but they're just called UBC Old Boys.
That's right. Yeah. And like, so keeping on that same track with club rugby, it was when I moved here in '98, I guess. Time flies, eh? One of the first sporting events I went to was rugby, and right away, it was a CW game, and I don't even think it was against James Bay, but I think it was against Capilano or something. And I went, I'm hooked. Yeah, I'm hooked. This is what I'm going to do every Saturday. Yeah. And my buddy Jaquitos and I, that's what we would do. But the thing for me was the same players you'd see in club when you went to a Rugby Canada game, you knew a couple of them guys. Yeah. And it just, like, for me in sports, one of the biggest kicks I get, Ken, is when you see guys at your local park playing with the boys on a Saturday, having beers, and then you're watching them in Italy or wherever on TSN, and you're going, I just fucking watch this guy. Like, you know what I mean? It's really cool. So what, like, is that lost today, or do we still have that? Is that there?
It's not like it was. No.
No, is it? Yeah.
95. After the 95 World Cup in South Africa, the game went professional, and that changed the landscape right away. And so, in Canada, it didn't change it. I should say, in Canada, it didn't change it right away, but it certainly had an effect, and that effect kept sort of snowballing over the years. But it's unfortunately is not like that anymore. It's very difficult in just about any country, to be quite honest, because now a lot of those larger countries have those top sports or those top pro leagues, right?
Right.
Premiership and top 14 and Super Rugby down in the Southern Hemisphere, stuff like that. So it's very difficult to make the leap from club rugby to international rugby these days. I actually shouldn't say it's difficult. It's near impossible.
Really?
Yeah, just from a
what? No, what?
It's just the gap is widened. The gap is really widened, and so when it became professional, you all of a sudden academies were popping up everywhere, and it took the focus away. Historically, in a lot of places, you would go through school, right? You go through university programs and stuff like that, and then go into a club system and a club league, and then build your way up. And in Canada, you'd go through club, and then provincial, and then national, right? So
right. So you're saying that we still have club rugby. That's never changed.
Yeah. No.
See, the one thing I love about the club rugby is they're not in it to make a gazillion dollars.
No.
They don't. But they don't lose money, I don't think. It's not one owner that bought the team, a local guy who,
there's
whatever.
There's no money really in club rugby. Like, you're not making.
But there's also no ego in club rugby.
No, to some degree.
Well, okay, but at the end of the day, what I'm really getting at is that everybody seems to be on the same page no matter what. And why I'm saying this is that one of the things that stands out for me as a sports guy is how old is the Wanderers Castaway? Where do they date back? Where does James Bay? It's like 18 something, no?
It's awesome, and I remember. When I first got back in 2000 to start playing for CW, one of the first few games, and you show up, one of the things that happens right away when you show up, and it probably happens at James Bay too, is you get told about the rivalry, right?
You have to. You have to.
And so...
and the history?
And the history. Castaways have a different history because Castaway Wanderers have a different history. Amalgamation.
Right.
And that happened before I got there. It happened... I'm not going to get the year right here.
No, but it wasn't yesterday.
Yeah, it wasn't yesterday. So you have the Wanderers and the Castaways, and I think what happened was they got together. Well, soccer was just a part of the club. Like, so you had these clubs that have different sports within it. So we have soccer and cricket at Castaway Wanderers.
Oh, okay.
They don't really, like, they're not all Castaway Wanderers, right? There's Castaways cricket, there's Castaway soccer, and there's Castaway Wanderers rugby. But they sort of fall kind of under the same umbrella in terms
same
of
clubhouse. You still on Discovery?
Same clubhouse.
Yeah,
exactly
right. Yeah.
So the amalgamation happened whenever it was.
Yeah.
But both clubs go back. If you take Castaway Wanderers as it is in terms of even the history of the two that amalgamated, you're going back 100 years.
Exactly. And James Bay.
Or close to it. Absolutely close
right.
to it. I mean, you talk about, there's been a lot of discussion actually recently within the community about the McKechnie Cup. McKechnie Cup is a competition historically played between Vancouver Island, Fraser Valley, and Vancouver, regional rep teams. And that McKechnie Cup goes back to, I think, 1888. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, Jesus Murphy.
So... I remember showing up in 2000 in one of the first few games. Within the first few games, you get the James Bay game in, and
it's like an old firm game.
It blew me away. Coming from Newfoundland, playing in front of 25 people, or your parents and their dog, and all that sort of stuff, and certainly back 25 years ago, rugby wasn't massive in Newfoundland. And you come out and you play a game in front of 1,000 people,
and loud
club game.
Loud
club game, and it was just outrageous. And the most fun you'll have. The rivalry's there. It's still there, and it's really interesting because now you got guys like myself who are still with the club and in the roles that I'm in, and then you got someone like Sean White over at James Bay who lived through that rivalry as a player as well. Of
course.
And he and I are now working together. Yep. We're going to have combined training sessions before the season starts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So things like that. It's really great to see.
Yeah.
The rivalry's still there, but it's,
one of the things I picked up on early and why I love the sport and club rugby on the island here was every year before the season started, you would hear, oh, geez, that James Bay's got like 6 national guys on the team or whatever, and we're just got some young guys. We lost 4 guys. We but hopefully we'd be competitive, and you'd win. Well, and then reversed. You guys had a bunch of shit ton of guys on your team that were could play for Canada, and they didn't. And it's just the competitive. It's just every time these two face each other, it just doesn't matter.
It was interesting, those first few games in 2000 between those two teams. I hadn't been capped at that point yet, but between those two teams, I'd played the junior Canada U19, 20, and Pride stuff like that up until then. But you play a game against James Bay in 2000 or 2001, and between the 30 guys on the field, over half of them have played for Canada, right? And so I came out to a club game going, I just watched this dude on television.
That's as a punter like me watching that's exactly how I felt.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Which made your game better.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So,
couldn't help it.
I mean, and that's the other thing too is that I want to discuss is that. Exactly that you when you're in your clubhouse and you're having beers in their clubhouse, which still for the people that don't understand this game, it is the greatest game in the world simply because you beat the shit out of each other. And the other team is responsible for feeding you and the beers after, and the whole clapping you in. And it's such an honorable game that I don't know how long that went on for. I mean, I remember getting something sent to me by, I think it was Gareth Reese's dad, the origins of rugby, and it was something off the CFL, I believe.
Oh, it did. Yeah. There's a book by Doug Sturrock, and he's a long time rugby guy, like forever, and when I was working for Rugby Canada, he phoned me up one day and said, "Hey, I got a bunch of this stuff. Would you like it?" And I'm a history nut too.
Yeah.
Teacher by trade and history degree and all that sort of stuff. I love it. And I was like, bring whatever you got, right?
Yeah.
And he brought me boxes, 5 or 6 boxes of stuff, and I just couldn't stop going through it. He ended up writing a book called "It's a Try" about the history of rugby in Canada.
Who's this again?
Doug Sturrock.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. It's massive.
Wow.
But I don't know the specifics, but you're right. It kind of there's something about the CFL bit.
Yeah.
And there's another bit about one of the first games in the country being played at McGill University in Montreal.
Okay.
Who knows when? I couldn't.
Oh, wow. Yeah. 17, whatever. Who knows?
Whenever that university started, but the history, it's a fabulous history.
So, which leads me to my next question is, it really irks me when people slam the game. Does it piss you off that people on a weekly basis find fault within the game for something, whether it be at the national level or this level, or the history of rugby? I mean, every organization, every sport has its little issues, maybe internal, whatever, but rugby stood the test of time, and where I'm leading up to this is that. Today, as I sit here, I haven't watched rugby in a while, whatever.
Well,
we haven't had rugby, of course, but
we're training now for the first time in 18 months.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But even before COVID, the women have really taken this sport by the horns and run with it and taken it and built this. Certainly in Canada, I would believe, and where we're living now, you don't hear much about men's rugby right now, or you haven't, or I haven't. So is that just me, or?
Well, it might be just you.
Okay, I don't know. Yeah, right.
But no, with basically a sport being on hiatus, a lot of stuff got canceled. Typically in a normal year, the men would be on tour a couple of times. They'd have their they'd have their June test window where they'd play internationals there, and then they have a November test window, and then they have the ARC usually, which we would have seen over the last before COVID. We would have saw 6, 7, however many years in a row. over here at Langford, right?
Yeah.
And that, I mean, it just stopped dead.
Right.
And so it's not surprising that a lot of people feel that way because it's not there.
But my thing is, even when like I said before COVID, it just, like, I couldn't tell you the last time I heard anything about the men's 15 game. Like, it's been so long, and it's, like I said, COVID can take some blame for that. But my point is that, or what I'm trying to say to you is that in all of sports, right, basketball, football, whatever it is, the Achilles heel for women in hockey is that respect level of the men get this and the men get that. And they showed something about a change room or a dressing or a gym where the men's football, and they had every friggin' thing you could imagine in there and more, and buffet. And then they went over to the women's workouts. I think they had like 2 barbells and a yoga mat or something.
That was the NCAA thing.
Yeah. But it seems that the women, and I'm not smashing the men, I'm just as a punter sitting on the sidelines watching this, it just seems that the women have taken the reins and really taken the sport and said, okay, I'll show you what I can do.
Well, I think, just like you referenced all the other sports too, they had to fight through a lot of adversity around those things, right? Like no funding. There's a Monty Heald fund right now for the women's 15s program that gets, I don't know if it's gotten them there. I think it has gotten them there to, it used to have to pay to play international women's rugby.
Oh, shit.
Ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So
the demand?
No. That's the point.
That's right.
And I mean, there's a lot of history behind the men's. There's more history behind the men's game, of course. And the World Cup, the men's World Cup, is, I think, the second or third largest sporting event outside the Olympics and the Soccer World Cup, right? So it makes a lot of money.
Wow.
Right. The men's Rugby World Cup makes a lot of money.
A ton. Yeah.
A ton of money.
Right.
And so historically, that was the game. Right, the men's game was.
That's right? What I'm used to.
Yeah.
Yes.
So since the first World Cup in '87, I don't think the '87 World Cup actually made a lot of money because they're playing on club pitches in New Zealand, and it was the first time they had it and all that sort of stuff. But since then, certainly in the last probably since 95 was big in South Africa because of the Mandela thing as well, and the size of the crowds, and
Invictus,
and the anticipation of Invictus, but also the anticipation of it becoming a professional sport. Kind of, everybody was not prepared, but everybody was kind of seeing that coming, right? So historically, the men's game has had the money because it
and the TV revenue and this.
And the TV, right? There was no TV revenue in Canada, of course, because all we did was watch hockey. But you go to Europe. I've been lucky to go lots of different places and been in New Zealand a few different times, and you flick on the television. I remember being there and as recent as I was there twice. I was in 2014 and 2017 in Wellington. And
oh, wow.
And so you go and you flick on the television and they're showing the high school championships. On television.
So it's as big as like U.S. football, where you get like 40,000 people to a high school football game or something or whatever.
The numbers are different because it's just from a population perspective, but the interest is
That's what
right? Like I talk to people about people are always sort of complaining in Canada about how come we're not better and how come we're not, from a men's perspective as well. The women are doing phenomenal, but from a men's perspective, we're 24th, I think now. 23rd or 24th in the world, and I say to them, listen, our kids get hockey sticks for Christmas, not rugby balls.
That's true.
So we're not gonna be top 10 in the world.
See, during COVID, I thought rugby, it would be the perfect opportunity, to show more exposure to the game, only because of the passing and that you could be 6 feet apart. I just honestly felt like they kind of missed the bus on, you could go outside when things kind of calmed down a little bit, right. and it was just like, I went, okay, there's no sports, but we don't promote the game. I thought that was a perfect time to get your kid into a sport they may not have tried, because it's one of the only ones you could have done at a park, anywhere.
I would guess that some took advantage and some didn't. because you could do that. And some clubs, I know some clubs.
Oh, they did? I
You
didn't
could
see
go
it.
out and run around. I remember when things calmed down and stuff, we did sessions with 10 guys, right?
Okay.
So we would get 10 guys. Actually, I wasn't in the role then. Scott Manning was in the role then. He would organize really well. He'd just get 10 guys out, and he would do kicking practice or some of the passing stuff like 6 feet apart. But you still couldn't play a game.
No. But still, you're outside.
You're outside, exactly, right? But again, I think, there was this overarching just fear of COVID.
Well, that was it. But at the same time, it's like a lot of people just. And not to go on this COVID, I'm done in with it. But
I think you're right, because I think now people are realizing, oh shit, we could have
missed the bus.
We probably missed the bus a little bit.
Not
just some promotion, but some of that extra bit, like getting some kids out just because you can learn how to pass 6 feet away. And
that's what I mean. Exactly.
Skill is the biggest thing,
without a doubt. Yeah. But and what made me think of that is that. Now, I don't know. This is just, as a sports guy who is just infatuated with all sports, my mind goes to, everybody thinks they can fix stuff, but, well, if I was, whatever. It's not the way I'm going on here, but we clearly don't do academies and the youth, and we're going to get into the youth bit in a minute, but we don't do the same things as the countries that are always in it,
we don't have the structure. We never had the structures for it. It was a totally different structure for that stuff, right? So one of the things that happened when it became professional was a lot of these countries, England, in the UK, Wales, Ireland, France, and in the Southern Hemisphere, the big ones, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, those places, they had already had a really well-built historical club structure, school structure. They already had it. And so when it became professional, they just kind of shifted the money a little bit. And the academies were kind of already, the facilities and stuff were pretty much there. We never had that kind of
but we didn't really
organizational structure within the school systems, the university systems.
And that's my point. But we never really did anything to improve that. To me,
now, for sure.
Well, but
you look at UBC and UVic, those are great.
100%.
You go back east to Queens and Guelph and a few of those places. Some of those universities in Ontario are just ridiculously well set up.
Right. But I'm talking about kids at a club level. It's just something simple like a player's card, just a card like a hockey card. You know what I mean? No, it's something simple. It's easy to do, and you go to the school and you there's Kenny Goodland, and and it's got all your stats in the back and stuff like that.
I didn't need much room for that.
No, yours would be the small card. Well, at least you got a card, buddy. I don't even got a card, right? But it's just it's one. I'm so passionate about rugby as a fan that it does bother me when people slag it.
Yeah,
it does. It just does. And there's writers, there's bloggers on a weekly basis. Just it's like, give it up, man. Just stop ripping into it.
The rugby community can be hard on themselves.
They forget the tradition of it and the lengthy.
I think the other thing is because of that sort of professionalism and the idea of that. The ideals change within, right? So, I remember coming up through the only thing, and this is historically as well, and a lot of the guys my age and older, and we'll talk about this. At some point, we kind of got to move past it a little bit, but we still want to hold on to those ideals. But you're sort of all you ever wanted to do was put on the jersey.
Yeah,
right. That's really and. That was it. There was never any money involved. There was never anything else involved. You just wanted to put on the jersey and walk out there and sing.
Because y'all had jobs. You had to go to on a Monday.
You had to.
Right?
You limp to your work on Monday and Tuesday.
With a black eye.
And all those things. But because of, I think, the shift in I keep saying it, the professionalism of the whole sport. You're getting, unfortunately, you are getting not as much, but the hockey dad mentality. That kind of mentality of like, well, where's it going to take my son? Where's it going to take my daughter?
It always,
right? Instead of
it never used to be like that.
No. Instead of, well, are they having fun?
Just that's a stickler for me too. Because
so
I know for a fact in every sport, I know for a fact that there are kids playing their chosen sport that don't even want to play.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they either don't want to let their parents down or their coach or whatever. But there are kids out there currently, right now as we speak, that are playing something that they don't want to play, or they'd rather do something else.
I've played with guys that should have had 60 caps. And at a young age, and by young I mean 20, 21 or whatever, they just said, not for me anymore.
Yep.
And pressure from home,
Yep.
extra pressure from
friends, coaches,
like a coach or a rep team or something
Yep.
like that, and there's a balance that needs to be struck somewhere around getting those guys and girls who are talented and still making sure that they still have passion for the game and they're playing it because they want to play it, and so.
So where do you think then, as we kind of morph into this, where do you think rugby has lost the dynamics of rugby went from club to this to money? Is it the Olympics? Was it the sevens?
Well, the Olympics thing, we've talked about this off air a few times. The Olympics things changed everything.
Everything, right?
Everything. So for me, it did anyway.
For the better?
In a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
See, that's when I stopped listening, or that's when you weren't really hearing about the men that much.
Well, what it did was it did change it positively in a lot of ways, because I can guarantee you more people know about rugby now.
100%.
Because of the Olympics. There's
100%.
No doubt about it. And the fact that the girls won bronze in 2016
Wicked,
was
hey?
one of the best things.
Wicked.
In terms of the notoriety of the sport and building icons like that. And so you'll get girls who know who Jen Kish is.
Yeah, of course.
They do, right?
100%.
And so...
and if you're listening, Jen, if you want to do the show, that'd be awesome.
The Olympics changed everything overnight because
100%.
Because the money talked in a lot of ways in terms of funding, of course, right?
On the podium.
On the podium said,
And let me just say this. But for the listeners that are out there or watching as well, is Own the Podium. In case you don't know, it's basically its format is to. Originally, it was to take athletes at a very high level that couldn't compete in their chosen sport and then turn them into an Olympic athlete. So Jesse Lumpson, I think, was one of the first that I remember.
Because he went from football.
He went to the Hamilton Tiger. He went from the Hamilton Tiger Cats into the bobsledding right away.
Yeah.
And they're very successful. So... but at the same time, and I won't ask you this. This is just my, thing, is that it's not so much about the athlete; it's about the medal. So they will put the money in where they see where they may get the most return in medals. Right. And with the rowers. I think they gave, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I think it was something like $25 million, and only the girls won medals. So I'm sure that structure is going to change.
Well, that's it, right? So that funding discussion changed right away because you're right. On the Podium wanted to support athletes and teams who they thought needed that extra push or oomph or whatever to be able to train more regularly, to so they don't have to limp to work on Mondays and get physio at lunch break and do all that stuff. So
but already an athlete at an elite scale,
but already somebody who's
right. So the transition, the thinking behind it is that he's built as an athlete in this, or she, and we're just
and from a high performance perspective,
hybrid.
They're not really wrong.
No. On paper, it sounds great.
Yeah, so they support the athletes and the teams who they think are going to bring back a medal.
But somewhere along the line, it just became about money then.
Well,
somewhere.
yes, my feeling is yes. So because what you see is the funding changes depending on if you win or not. So I'd be interested to see. I'd be interested to see what happens now after this past Olympics, where the men finally got in,
yes,
and they finished 8th, which is if you know sevens and if you know how the HSBC World Series works, to finish 8th in any sevens tournament is pretty good.
Okay,
it's really
good. It doesn't sound good, but
it's good.
Okay,
and getting to the Olympics in the first place is a feat.
So where the women were third,
for the women were third in 2016. They end up 9th in Tokyo.
So because they're ninth, do you think that'll bump them out of some sort of sponsor, or instead of 10 million, you might get 5?
I don't think it'll bump them out, but I think it will affect it. I have no idea how. I don't think it'll bump them out completely because they're still a world class.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
You don't go from third. They were third in the world going into it.
No kidding.
Right? So you don't go from 3rd to 9th. They're still going to be competitive on a world scale. Good. They're still going to be competitive, and the fact that they had a tournament to finish 9th at the Olympics, it could have happened a year ago in Cape Town, or it could have happened, whatever. And so it will be interesting to see what On the Podium does now after these Olympics and the review, and see
what happens.
From my experience, maybe from the conversations, you might see the men kind of get a little bit more because they made it and they finished in the top 8. The women, I mean, I don't know the numbers anymore at all, so I don't want to.
No. It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter actually. So it'll be interesting to see how that funding is as it
plays
moves forward, as it plays out over the next year or so. Because you got to remember too, it's not a full cycle. It's only 3 years because it was pushed back. So we only got 3 years to get ready for. Where's the next one? In the next summer ones? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So and I'm sure it costs a ton of money to do this and put all this on, but when they one of the best events, and I've told people this 100 times. One of my favorite events is the Vancouver, going over and I don't know 100%. If it's about the rugby or the crowd.
It's all of it.
You know what I mean? It's like
you go to those stops in the World Series.
Yeah,
that's the World Series. I was lucky. I was lucky enough to play in 2 of them in 2003. So I played in because they do the stops where they have the 2 week to week. So they have 2 week stops, right, back to back weekends.
Okay.
So those tournaments are always paired together. So historically, Vancouver's paired with Vegas Sevens. So they play a stop in Vegas, come to Vancouver, they take a couple of weeks break, 3 or 4 weeks break, and then there's the Tokyo and Singapore, and then you've got London and France, and those are always kind of, that's how those tournaments are. That's how this.
What a brilliant idea, though, right? What a great concept.
Exactly. And so, in 2003, I was really lucky enough to make the squad and go to Wellington and Sydney, and that's you talk about, like you're saying, about how fun the Vancouver Sevens is. That's what it is. It's a 2-day party. Now the rugby has changed, of course, because the athletes are just professionalism and funding, and people are, a lot of countries are really using the sevens as not just development bits, but it's another international stage, and you want to perform well on an international stage. So
as a player, but as a fan,
as an organization as well, right? So but as a fan,
I mean, we're just cheering for Canada, and that's it. But
if you were at Vancouver last year or whenever,
a few years back,
when they finished third, they beat South Africa. Third. That, I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about that because it was outside of the win they had in Singapore a few years earlier. They've only won once on the tour, right? Outside of that win, for me, that win against South Africa was just right.
Yeah,
they'd won the bowl. So the way the sevens tournament works, you go through the pool play and then you get slotted into whether you're in the plate cup competition or the bowl competition.
Right. And so A, B type thing.
And so
1A, 1. Yeah.
So when I think it was the first year that Vancouver hosted, and we lost the pool game and we ended up having to play for the bowl. Yeah. But they beat France.
We won the bowl though.
But they beat France to win the bowl, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember
that's huge.
That was huge.
Yeah,
I think it was the last play or second last play. John Moonlight scored the try.
Great guy.
Ariana hit the conversion. And
what a team!
That was and you're in front of 30,000 of your hometown fans. You couldn't get any better.
All in costume.
You couldn't get any better than that, right?
No, exactly.
So those weekends, those tournaments,
it's just fun, right? I don't know of another sport that puts quite that like when with that atmosphere where you almost forget, is it about the 2-day party or is it about winning is a cherry on top, but if they didn't, you're not going to go, that was a shit weekend.
No, you don't.
Right? So I'm well done.
You go to that tournament and you look at one corner and it's the same corner every year and it's full of Fijian expats and Fijian fans who fly around the world to support their team, right? A lot of them do. And there's this whole corner of a section. It's just the baby blue of the flag and the singing and the drums. It's
how do you not get into that, right?
Yeah.
It really is. So how does that work then? Kind of just circling back to structuring of the money. Like when we hold an event like that in Vancouver, it's a sellout, start to finish, right? And
I heard a stat before you get there. I heard a stat. In the first year Vancouver hosted, they had more beer sales.
I did hear this.
Than a full Lions CFL season.
Yes, I heard that.
In the 2 days.
I heard that. Something like that too. I know, right? It's just, I actually think they ran out of beer.
And 2 people I think that's right. 2 people for the whole 2 days got kicked out.
Yeah.
2 people out of 60,000 people coming through those gates over 2 days. 2 people got kicked out.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the sort of culture and stuff like that. That's what it is. People are there just absolutely enjoying themselves.
I just awesome. The Euro that happened there, watching the English fans, I was so much into it. There was upsets. It was so fun to watch, and then you see that shit at the end. And unfortunately, that's what I like. That's what I remember. Yeah, so, and in that, again, that is what makes rugby. So I think rugby, one of the best jobs rugby does in promoting its own game is, it's violent. You've had some knocks. These boys aren't letting up. They're not pulling the chute. Like, they're not, but it's done. I forget, what's that? There's been
hooligan...
played by hooligans, but gentlemen and all that. I don't know. Is that so? Well, I guess it's a bit of a knock against soccer, right? Too.
It is, but I won't say the soccer part, but the rugby part is a hooligan game played by gentlemen,
right? But they've done a really good job at promoting that, where the fans actually get that.
Yeah.
Where once the game is over. And you look over and you see the guy just as drunk as you are, or whatever, maybe not, but just having fun. It's fair dues. Game's over. Give a hug, selfie, and that's that. Yep. It's very few sports that I've been to Canuck games where because I'm in a Leaf jersey and you're like, and I'm like, buddy, really? I'm 55. Like, it's just this layoff, and we're gonna lose anyway, so fucking don't worry about it. So
if it's the playoffs, we will.
Playoffs, yeah, no kidding. Oh, I forget. Yeah, you put the we in. I forgot you're a Leaf fan too. Yeah, and so John Moonlight. Just so you know. So let's what are you doing right now? So you explain, because the last time I spoke with you, you were with Rugby Canada, and one of them. It's been a while since we've chatted, but you were doing some amazing work in youth rugby and development. And when I heard that you were the coach of CW, do people still call it CW? Yeah, of course, right? Yeah. I was really happy to hear that. So, are you still doing your academies, camps?
No, not officially. I try to help out where I can.
Roger,
I always want to support. Roger he's just had a new baby, so
okay.
He's
okay.
shifted. He's shifted away. He's focusing on a new little baby. So
good for him.
But I've tried to stay involved, of course, as much as I can, and support. I want to support the programs as much as I can. We've got the new. It's not we, sorry. But they brought back the new version of the Pride, right? It's sort of a national academy, and Phil Mack, who's doing a great job.
Great guy.
I try to support them as much as I can, help them with some sessions over the recent spring here.
I always thought he'd make a great national coach.
He just might.
You know what I mean? Years ago.
Yeah, he's on his way.
Yeah.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I would have picked him 5 years ago or something when they were going through coaches.
Well, he's still playing 5 years ago.
Well, was he really?
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, I remember because we were going through coaches quite a bit there for a while, and I thought, well, what are you doing, guys? What do you
certainly were
pick him? But anyway, so
he's on his way though.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
So I try to help that. I try to help out wherever I can, and I'm not officially involved. Of course, I left for personal reasons.
Yeah.
Because 2 young kids, travel was not a nightmare, but it's
a job that doesn't end. It's not 9 to 5.
I mean, there was
emails, phone calls.
It was not 9 to 5,
no.
and it can kind of really
overtake,
suck you in,
overwhelm you.
Really overwhelm you, And
stressful.
My wife looking at me, and I'm on the phone and doing emails.
10 o'clock at night.
10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And getting up and doing them again, and answering calls at weird hours. So
and it's not like you're making $280,000 a year.
No. I love the job because you're involved in the community. You're involved with, and I loved it because of the developmental part too, in terms of dealing with the age grade programs, right? So essentially my job was.
It is a satisfying job when you see the development and then you see it happen.
One of the things that I'm loving. This is a personal thing too, where you see, like I've seen some of the guys that are playing now that I was watching when they were 16, 17 years old coming through the program.
Yeah.
And they came through the U18 program, and they came through the U20 program, and then they're now in, some of them are now in the MLR. So I look at that stuff and I'm really happy about. I love.
Isn't that something?
That stuff, and that's the stuff that really hits home, and that's.
Do you know why I still do ISN? For exact that reason. I've been around long enough now that when I first started in 2008 or something, was covering athletes that have gone on to pros and this and that. And I'm like, there was like a 13, 12-year-old girl now, playing for the tennis player. I covered her when I had to get 2 likes or no likes at all.
Right.
And all of a sudden she wins the U.S. Open. I felt like it was my daughter. Like I had a little tear. Like it was really quite cool and so I can totally relate to that feeling.
It was the best part of the job, going around the country.
100%.
Yeah,
So youth rugby, just say on Vancouver Island, because that's we can talk. What part does club rugby have in the development of school and different high schools and stuff like that? Like, do you, or does Rugby Canada help out, or who's responsible for the development of youth rugby?
Well, clubs are.
Exactly.
Okay. Right? Clubs are in terms of adding a piece to it. So high schools play a huge part, because high school, certainly in Canada, is likely where most kids first get introduced to the game. I mean, there's some really great mini programs.
That old, eh?
Well, historically, yeah, it's getting a lot. It has gotten a lot better.
Is that because you referenced the hockey sticks at Christmas?
What do you mean?
When you said, "Well, kids, we get hockey sticks for Christmas,"
yeah.
So they don't really pick the game up until.
I never I never started till high school.
Oh, really?
I didn't have a clue what the sport was till I was 15 years old.
You're joking.
Not a clue.
Really?
Nope.
Did you play football or?
No, nothing. Softball, hockey, basketball. Showed up at high school one day. My brother's friend, who they played on the local club team, and the club players, and it's like this probably in every province, of course. Club players will help high schools out, right? So,
yeah.
Well, it's a bit different now with insurance-wise. You need teacher contacts and stuff like that, and which is kind of one of the reasons we don't need to delve into this part. But some of the high school programs have sort of fallen off because now you get that situation where you can't do it without the teacher. A lot of teachers are like, well, I'm not staying for 3 hours.
It is goofy. Some of the and unfortunate is the way society is right now.
So
But you must get a kick then when you see a 4 or 5, 6-year-old girl and boy out there throwing a rugby ball around. You must go, right.
My guy is 6. I got 2. My guy is 6 and my girl is 4. They'll be 7 and 5 in a couple months.
And she's tougher than him, I bet.
She will be. So they're interesting. So, and it was funny last night after training, I end up having to take some of the kit home, right?
Yeah.
Some of the tackle bags. Before I leave to come here this morning, they're out jumping on the tackle bags.
Love it.
And both of them have had mini rugby balls, normal size rugby balls around them their whole life.
Right.
Right. So they're getting used to just seeing it and knowing, like, and they're
not throwing it like a football. They're throwing it like a rugby ball.
Of course, I'm a bit.
Yeah. No, I get that.
And they'll sit with me and watch a game. Right?
Oh, wow.
Because of the timing stuff, and we were watching the recent British and Irish Lions tour that was happening in South Africa.
Yeah.
The games were on early in the morning, 9 o'clock or something. And so I would get up and put on the game because they're big games. And they come out and sit with me and watch, and not once ask about putting on a cartoon. And I'm like, this is the best. So they're getting they're
accustomed.
They're getting accustomed to it. They see it. But historically, right?
That shocks me.
It just wasn't that
really?
way. It just wasn't that way. And it's a lot better now. There's a lot of great mini programs around the country in the province.
We're across the street at Wanda Fuca. I think I can't remember the girl's name. She's a friend on Facebook. I haven't talked to her in ages, but I think her ex was I can't remember. I think he was in the Hall of Fame even. But they have Tyke. They have Tyke rugby and stuff like that. And
Castaway Wanderers, I'll put the plug in there.
Yeah, no, you have to.
Castaway Wanderers has a great mini program, which is going to start up in September 11th. All the way. It's like my little guy's joining this year. He's almost 7, so he'll go right into it, right? And at that age, they're just running around like jumping on bags and kind of kicking the ball and just kind of getting used to it. You don't do any real contact stuff till 11, but.
So that was my next question.
Yeah, the tackle stuff doesn't. The introduction to tackle stuff doesn't start till 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Because as you know, you grew up a hockey fan too, and you played it, and I don't remember not body checking when I was playing. You know, and when they took that out, that's when you started seeing headshots. Changed the game completely, because now these kids, when you're allowed to hit, they want to take buddy's head off, right? And instead of knowing how to hit, so if kids aren't picking it up till 50, so they would learn that their first games would be tackling.
Well, you wouldn't do that. No, the one great thing about rugby is we're very conscious of that tackle contact situation and how dangerous it can be.
And the rules have changed to help that.
And the rules have changed. But we've always been conscious of that.
Yeah.
So there was never
another reason why to love rugby, and because the NFL is going through concussion lawsuits, and
if a kid showed up to our club at 15 years old, never touched the ball before, but saw it and wanted to play, maybe from sevens, whatever.
Yeah.
Saw it and wanted to give it a try. I would not put him into a game or her into a game until I was completely sure that they could
take and receive
properly, technique-wise.
Good for you.
A tackle. It just wouldn't happen.
Right.
It just wouldn't happen. There's just no way. Aside from the public consciousness around concussions and stuff like that. Aside from that, it was never done. Like it just
Is there a stigma with rugby that it's violent? With parents that want to?
Sure.
Is there?
I think so.
But yet they put them in football?
But I think I can't speak for football at all, but I do know that parents are definitely a lot better now in terms of understanding that approach I just talked about.
Yeah.
So they know that if their kid wants to play rugby, they know that they're going to have to go through a process to be ready to actually play a game.
Right.
It's not probably, again, I haven't played hockey in decades, but I don't imagine it's like hockey where, once you learn how to skate, you're kind of playing a game.
Yeah.
In a sense, and I might be wrong about that. I'm sorry, hockey
No.
fans, if I am or not. But rugby has always been like that. We're not gonna throw anybody to the wolves like that. It's just too risky. You could do serious damage.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Not even from like a.
You could hurt yourself by hitting wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the thing.
That's one of the main things.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the main.
You miss a tackle, or you miss tackle.
You miss tackle.
Oh boy.
Your head's in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's just not going to end well at all for anybody. So it's really great to see. And I actually just had a meeting, starting to do this stuff from a club in my director role, working with the club coaches, age grade club coaches, about certainly return to contact and return to play now post-COVID because nobody's played in a long time. But we're going through a very deliberate process to get players back up to speed in terms of their technique and how to take and give a tackle and all those sorts of things. And it's not just a tackle guard either. It's the clear out breakdown. Like when someone goes to deck and they place the ball, you gotta hit the other body over it so your teammate can fire the ball away. Stuff like that. There's all these different areas
In the scrum, and there's a technique to that, but people don't.
Stuff is a whole different level, a whole different conversation. When you're dealing with the scrum, not from a sevens perspective is a little bit different because you've only got 3-on-3, but when you're playing a 15s game and you got a scrum of 8-on-8, you can do a lot of damage if your foot's not in the right place, or maybe one team is really a lot more powerful than the other and they drive them over a little bit and something happens and your neck is twisted or
multitude of things could happen.
So just like what I was saying about the tackling stuff, the scrum especially is a massively important piece of the game where I will not put anybody in scrum until especially in the front row, because the front row is the most dangerous in terms of the most vulnerable because you're ahead of the pack there. Right?
So if
you see a scrum sometimes and it collapses, a lot of teams practice that because you got to fall the right way.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So if you fall the wrong way, a lot of stuff can go wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff can go wrong.
So when you coach or teach, are you coaching the 15 approach or the 7 approach?
I do almost all 15s right now, yeah. I've never, I have coached 7s every now and then, but not in a very serious way in terms of
because it's two different games.
Oh, yeah.
Players are different. Players are built different. A 15s player.
It's interesting. This is the conversation we have within rugby a lot, and have had a lot. We go back to the Olympic thing because it changed the sort of dynamic.
It did, didn't it?
Right. They're different games, but they can actually work together. And so a lot of countries will use their 7s program as part of a developmental piece because what you do learn from 7s is a high level of skill. If you can't pass a certain distance, or if you can't pass on the run and be very accurate with those passes
at full speed,
kicking little chips over the top or what have you, and catching high balls and stuff like that, then you have to be able to do those things.
So maybe do an own the podium in reverse, where if you you get cut from the 7s, you play the 15s or something.
Don't get me started.
Don't get me started.
But that conversation has happened a lot because, as I said, you get a lot of countries that will use it in that way, and I mean you get a lot of countries as well that have such a deep pool of talent that they can have separate programs and they don't actually have to intertwine in terms of resources. Canada doesn't have that. In my opinion.
Okay.
I think that we're getting we've gotten a lot better, but I also think that a better relationship between the two sports, the two games, will probably serve us better as a full organization in terms of making better use of our resources. So if a guy is a phenomenal player, and I don't want to call people out, I'm not calling people out at all, but I chatted to different guys. So we take Nate Hirayama, for example, who's has been a world-class sevens player, in my opinion, world-class rugby player. Connor Braid, Harry Jones, all these guys that have been through the sevens program over the last 8 to 10 years. They're phenomenal athletes and phenomenal rugby players, and they just happen to love sevens and choose sevens, and
but they came for 15,
and they played a ton. They played a ton of 15s.
Of course they did.
Right?
I remember watching them.
They had to, and as they were growing up, that was the first game they were all introduced to. It's the first game most certainly.
And traditionally, they might even love that even more.
They probably do love it, right? But I'm sure they do love it. To be fair, because they've been to World Cups. They've played in both programs. But the point I'm kind of getting at is if we were able to build a process process where we can get the best use out of our best athletes. So John Moonlight would have done this too, because I remember hearing a story where he played a World Series Sevens tournament and basically immediately got on a flight and flew to I don't know if it was Argentina flew to meet the 15s team for a 15s tour.
Yeah.
So he I mean, from a physical perspective, you don't really want to do that because your body won't like it very much. But
his legs are like thoroughbred. Jesus,
some guys can do that. And to be fair, not everybody can do that. And there will be players who and certainly now with the Olympics, of course, we talked about that already. But there will be players who will say, I just want to play sevens.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just want to be on the series, and I want to go to the Olympics if I can, and I just want to focus on sevens. That's totally fine. I think the conversation needs to happen with some of the players as well to give them to potentially give them an option as well. Say, listen, okay, you're a great athlete. You're a great rugby player. You can fit this position in 15s. You play that position in sevens. Do you think we can, can we
use you at the World Cup or something?
Can we build a program around you and your goals and your.
But is that taking a spot from a person that has been working his ass off on 15?
This goes back to the pool argument, the player pool argument. I think we've built a better player pool. I think there are times in our history where we didn't have a very large player pool, where we should have utilized some of those players for both programs.
Because it wouldn't be fair to a guy that's stuck by the 15s, didn't want to, traditional, loves it, good at it, great at his position, but there's a guy from sevens comes in a little bit faster.
But this also speaks to having a very close relationship between the programs and everybody understands where everybody stands.
There it is.
So if everybody understands...
So it can be done.
Oh, it absolutely can be done. You see it. Other countries do it.
Okay.
It can be done. It can be done. I mean, it's not easy, but again, I think a country like Canada and a sport like rugby, where it's a fringe of a fringe sport in a lot of ways, right? That there are times when I think you just got to make some decisions about the best use of your resources.
Do you think you'll ever see Club 7 rugby? Or is there a thing? I don't even know.
There's different. There has been different club tournaments around. I mean,
tournament, but I mean, just a league Club 7. Like, would Castaways ever have a Club 7 team?
No. Well, we might put a team in a tournament on a random.
But not a league, not a play on a Sunday or a game before you guys play on a Saturday.
No. We wouldn't have enough bodies either. But there's nothing really like that.
There's
a new one happening in the States in the fall coming. It's called Premier Rugby Sevens. I think it's Premier Rugby Sevens, PR Sevens.
Okay.
And that's kind of that idea that you're talking about, a bit more of a... I don't know the details yet at all, but I get from what I've seen, I think it's a bit more of like a localized version, say, of or North American version of the World Series, where they'll have stops and they'll have Club Sevens teams that only play sevens for a couple of months in a row. And I think it's semi-professional or maybe even a bit above semi-professional. I mean, there's money in it. You're getting to that because certainly in America, they love winning medals.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they recognized that, and there's a lot of private money in the States, not so much in Canada, unfortunately. And so you'll get private money that. I remember
There was, though. I mean, I remember there's a
is.
couple rich dudes I remember that used to, and then whatever happened, they had a falling out with Rugby Canada, and they just said, I'm pulling out. Like that one guy in Ontario, I think, remember that big, I don't know, he's pretty outspoken. But I wouldn't mention his name if I remembered it. But did he sit on the board or something? Or he was big to do as far as sponsoring, and
Well, I think that happens in a lot of different sports. You get guys who want to give money or want to support, and maybe they don't like some of the structure.
So they think because they give money, they can tell them how to run it. Yeah,
that depends. I'm not.
No,
thankfully, I'm not in those meetings. No. This is above my pay grade, but I think it can happen. It has happened, but there is private money in some of the areas in Canada. I'm not saying there's not. I'm just saying there's a lot more in
the States. Yeah, for sure there is.
I remember taking when I was in my role at Rugby Canada, there was a few things. Again, making best use of resources. I helped manage. I went on a sevens trip with the team as a manager.
Okay.
And we went to it. It was a random. It was like a prep tournament for the series, and it was in Florida. And so we go down there and we play in the tournament. There was a prize money involved, and basically turned out that this lady from Boston, who's worth $1 trillion, decided she liked rugby. She was like, "I'll put on a tournament," and there was full-on international team showing up for this thing. It was amazing
because of the prize money.
Because of the prize money.
Right. Okay.
And this was 2000.
Was it competitive? Yeah, I guess so. Hey, yeah.
Absolutely. We lost to Argentina in that tournament. I think it was a semifinal. We lost to Argentina.
Which always seems to be that country that just you can't. What is it with that country?
Argentina, it's really funny. I mean, I'm me and Gareth and a few of those they're older than me, Gareth. But we remember a time when we were pretty much all on the even.
Yeah.
All on the same kind of
level.
And different countries make different decisions, and again, it kind of comes back to some of it comes back to player pool, athletes, all these sorts of things, but yeah, those South American countries have
they just churn them out,
recently.
Don't they? They do nothing but year after year after year churn them out.
Well, one of the things Argentina has done is they started. I can't remember the name of it, but I think they started a domestic pro league. And that has helped. And now we're seeing, the MLR, for viewers who don't know, Major League Rugby.
Yeah.
We have the Toronto Arrows.
Yeah.
The
Seattle
Seawolves and Utah, and there's 10 teams. So you're seeing, I think it's in its fourth year now. So
it is popular.
It is popular, and it's only growing.
Yeah.
It's really great for the sport.
Didn't Ray Barkwell?
Ray did it.
Saw
Ray yesterday, actually.
Did you? What now? What he just got a new position somewhere, or?
Well, what he's doing, he's a teacher as well. I worked with him a little bit. He was over at Royal Bay Secondary. He helps out with he runs the, he teaches and helps out with some of the academy stuff over there. They have a lacrosse academy, soccer academy, and something else. Okay. So he's over there a teacher full time, but he also works with West Shore Rugby here.
He's threatened to do some episodes, but it just hasn't happened yet.
I saw him the other day. We were up at the there's a national U20 camp happening this week. Okay. So a few of us went up to help that and support and just rock around and see the kids again. So, and the coaches. So,
what the couch and piggies? I think there was a time where the women hadn't lost or something.
Well, I can tell you that
it's just some stat like they were 53 and all.
The couch and thing might be a microcosm of some of the stuff that we're talking about, because I can tell you when I first showed up here, that club was phenomenal. Yeah. So, and I remember being here. There's two quick stories. I remember coming here on tour as a junior Newfoundland team in 1990. Shit. 91 or 92, and we played a couple of high school teams here, and then we entered into a little sevens tournament up in Cowichan. Yeah. As we were Newfoundland, but we made a joke and called. There was a high school in St. John's called St. Kevin's, and called ourselves, I think, Kevin Sevens. And so we played in that tournament just for fun. We were 17 years old or whatever.
Think you could go up there and smoke them?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
Not at
Okay.
all. We were like, not at all. We knew we were going to be in for it. I don't think we smoked anybody. We were still learning the game.
Oh, okay.
But I remember a couple of things. The Sevens tournament was based on around the weekend of the provincial club final, the men's provincial club final. And so we played the tournament, and then everybody stayed and watched the final game, and it was massive. And it was Cowichan against UBC Old Boys. Graff was playing for the Old Boys. And this is when I first saw John Graff play in person. And Cowichan, I think they won that game.
Jeez.
And then when I came back to play for the Pride, the CCSD, a few years later, in '96, as an under-23 national team, the Cowichan were the only team we lost to.
Wow.
In like a year and a half. And they won the provincial title 2 years in a row from 96. I think they won 95, 96, and 96, 97. They were awesome. They were absolutely awesome. And I think going back to the bit of the point where the city changed, the economy changed, less people were, more people were moving away for work or whatever because they had
They're local people.
Oh yeah,
that's what I mean. So it's massively impressive.
Yeah, all of them are.
And like I said, I think there was a stretch where the women hadn't lost in 10 years or something like that.
I believe that first. I believe that.
Like I don't know. Don't quote me.
I don't know either, but I would not.
It's just that I love that stuff.
Now they're still playing.
Oh yeah,
they're Division I team.
Yeah,
the numbers are dropping. I mean, numbers are dropping across the board.
Yeah,
let's face it. It's not just a Cowichan thing, but yeah, it's.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. That's more history, as far. But Ken, we're gonna wrap this up soon. It's been over an hour now, hey. But I want to know what. Just tell us about Castaway Wanderers this year. What you're hoping to achieve? How's it looking? You're going to put a good squad out. Is there any guys that you want to give a shout out to up and coming that's looking good that should do well that we should look out for?
Well, it's an interesting year because things are pushed back. The first half of the season, of course, is broken up in the first half. So we'll play from October now till sort of beginning of December, and then the second half will look at the second half will be the province-wide.
Yep, that's right.
Premier First Division, which you always play as a doubleheader. So when we travel, you have a Premier team and a First Division team. So we're all kind of gearing up for that season, really. So the first half is all about building up the numbers, and we'll still have a Barnard Cup, which is the island approach.
I like
Barnard Cup for the top league, Div 1, I think we'll call it this year, and then Div 2 is the Times Colonist Cup. So we'll still have those things to play for, but I would imagine clubs are kind of a bit like me right now, where we just want to develop, prepare, get the guys ready for the second half. We're looking okay so far. It's funny, just like anything amateur sport, right? Guys are like, "Oh, I'll be back after after I sort out my work schedule." And so we got close to half a dozen guys firefighting, right? So we're not going to see them until the end of September, probably.
Yeah.
Which is, that's just the way life is.
Yeah.
But I've been really lucky. I've been in the roles now for a couple months. I've been really lucky to have gotten a few things in order. So Kieran Hearn, if viewers don't know, Kieran Hearn is going to be my assistant coach. He just retired from Major League Rugby.
Not bad, eh?
He played center for Canada, 7s and 15s.
Yeah.
A couple of World Cups. I don't know. I was going to say 40 plus, 50 plus caps. Fellow Newfoundlander.
Yeah.
Kieran, when that championship I referenced earlier for the Rock in 2005, Kieran was, I think, 18 at the time.
He's quite young, isn't he? Where he was when I started watching.
Yeah. So I think he was 18 for that first championship, and so he just shot up.
He really did, didn't he?
He was awesome. Played in the English Premiership for London Irish.
Yeah.
So he's coming on. He's
wow,
coming on as assistant coach. And the numbers are looking pretty good right now. We've got a couple of really good young guys that I'm excited about.
So you don't have to suit up unless you're short?
No chance. I even try to avoid, like when I'm doing some of the coaching stuff, I try to avoid any demonstrations of any kind because
It just don't heal anymore, right?
I don't think my body likes it very much at all. Any kind of sudden burst of movement is not really what's going to happen. So,
do you have any young kids that have been coming up through any of the high schools or academies that you can kind of shout out?
There's a few that have been training with the men's team. There's one kid, Liam Polton, who's 18 years old. I think, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I know the level 2, so he should be on the Canada U18 team, in my opinion, when they get going. Because that kind of program has a bit of a patchy, not patchy, but, you know, a tour will happen. And stuff like that. So depending on when that camp happens and the selection stuff, he should get on that team, in my opinion. He's a rapid winger. Short little guy, built already kind of, you can see where his body's going. He's going to be quite good. There's another kid, Rio, who is actually going to be taking part. He's going to be playing for us, but he's going to be also taking part in the McDowell Rugby Academy up in Duncan. He's going to go to high school up there and be part of a rugby academy with Robin McDowell. Who's a coach, who's a friend of mine I know. He's very good technically and all that sort of stuff. So he'll get that piece and then he'll play with us. And then a couple other guys, Brad and Alex. I should have said that because I forgot the last name.
That's all right.
2 props that are still under 19 eligible, but I think I'm going to get them in tune in time to play a little bit of men's rugby, which is always kind of good to give them a taste of it, I think.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
So,
because that's the only way you're going to gauge them. Is that
Yeah. So we're excited about those kids and about the team we're going to be putting together. We got Graydon Bowd, who's going to be playing fly half for us. He's hopefully he actually doesn't play fly half for us because it means he's signed an MLR contract, which is what he's gunning for. And we want our guys. This is part of it. This is our approach. We want.
Yeah.
Castaway Wanderers is not the be all and end all of rugby. If you have a dream and a goal,
you got it.
We're gonna help you, right?
Well, that's development, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So Liam Chisholm, who's a big leader for us, a big lock guy who's got Canada experience. He's coming back in September, and a lot of good old heads that your viewers won't know: Riley and Nicky and Sawyer Heron and Mike Finnemore and John Braddock and these guys. They'll be playing.
So a nice little mixture, eh?
Yeah, we're really excited. Yeah. We're really excited.
Good for you. And is there any COVID restrictions that you know of that people's like? Do you know who you're playing first?
No, the schedule's not out.
Not out yet?
We're going to have a couple of exhibitions. We're going to play. We're going to have a club day on September 11th where all our programs are going to kind of do something. It's a club day where we're just going to get some excitement going.
Right.
Play a few little fun matches, and the men's are going to the men are going to play an inter-squad match at the end of the day, and then we'll go to the house and have a beer and have some food, and then August 25th or September 25th, we're going to play UVic.
That'll be a good test.
Exhibition against UVic.
Yeah. Who's the coach there now?
Scott Manning, who was here. Well,
not physically.
He was the CW guy. He was the head coach. He and I worked together for the last 3 years at CW. He got the UVic job after Doug Tate.
Yeah.
The great Doug Tate. Yeah. Retired.
Great guy, eh?
I will shout out to Doug because I phoned him up and I said, Doug, I know you're retired. I said, but would you help me mentor some of my junior coaches?
Really?
I said, absolutely. So he's going to help mentor.
Wow, that's cool.
He's going to help mentor our two U19 men's two U19 coaches.
He's such a solid dude, isn't he?
Gerhardt and Alistair House. Yeah,
he really is.
He didn't hesitate. And
I've called him a couple times. He's taken my calls, no problem,
awesome.
and given me all the time in the world.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to start kind of putting some of these pieces around me because I'm certainly not the smartest guy in the room, and so if I can surround myself with
like that,
then I think we'll be in business. So we are very excited about.
Good for you, awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, listen, Ken, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show. I could have talked to you for another 2 hours, and we'll have to get you back.
Let's come back before the Premier season
starts. And come back and let us know how everything's panning out, just like you thought. And for the people that listening at home and listening in your cars, whatever, check out a rugby game. I got hooked. Yeah, Windsor Park in Oak Bay. It has, covered if it starts raining. I like going up there. I'm sure with a little balcony out there. Yeah, you take your beer. Yeah, absolutely. If you've never seen a Castaway James Bay game, you really are missing out because it is just unbelievable. So
CWRugby.com.
And that's the other thing. Yeah. So I will put the links to the YouTube video, CW.com. Now, is anybody allowed in there? After the game, can they go to the clubhouse or no? Is that just for?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't know if
okay.
I mean, technically,
okay. Yeah. Well, we'll write it in the comments if you find out or whatever. But if you haven't been to that clubhouse, that's an old man. That's got some tradition to it too. Eh? It really is a great clubhouse.
Yeah, it really
so,
is. We're because of COVID, of course, it's been shut down, but we're reopening tonight. Actually, a little soft sort of internal club reopening. So a few of us are going to go down.
Okay, there you go.
And, it's been
and drink pop, drink
up.
some Pepsis,
some orange juice.
Yeah, good stuff. I want to thank again my guest today, Kenny Goodland. Kenny, thanks for everything, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.